Okay, boys and girls, today's the day. This engine's coming out if it kills me, but hopefully it doesn't kill me. Had to move some laundry, sorry about that. Welcome back, everyone. My name's Andrew, this is the Make It and Break It YouTube channel, and we're going to be finishing up our engine harvest in this video. Whether it happens today or not, I'm not going to, torture you guys anymore with this thing. So, in front of me right here is our former Project Ute Chrysler 300C, now heart donor Project Ute Chrysler 300C. Last couple videos we've been trying to get this engine prepped to go come apart. First one, we pulled off the intake, found some broken pieces, some more janky fixes on this car. Last video we gave you the walk around on everything you need to go pull this engine. And we've got it pretty much ready to go. So as we sit right now, this engine's sitting on its bottom motor mounts, and it has two bolts connecting the transmission and the engine. So we pulled all the flex plate bolts, pulled all the other transmission mount bolts, and they are all bolts, not studs. I might show you that later if there's enough time in the video. We'll see if it makes the cut. But they're actually special, weird little bolts with threaded pieces coming out of them. And now we're ready to start pulling this thing out. So the process here is pretty simple, but I'm going to walk through it momentarily with you guys, just so you know my thinking and why I'm doing it. So our process right now is we have motor mounts that are in and still fully torqued up, so those need to come out. We have two bolts on the back side of the transmission, those need to come out, and then the engine can start coming out. But because of our clearance height issues and the fact that we're on a scissor style quick jack, what we actually want to do here is do this in pieces. So the first piece to this removal, and this might change if you have the ability to lift as high as you want, I don't. So the first part of this is to go pull those bottom motor mounts. And drop the car back down onto its wheels so that we can finish up the transmission separation. But before we separate those last two bolts of the transmission, we want to put two things on. First, we're going to put on our rigging gear. And we're going to put on a jack underneath the transmission. So this transmission is supported in the rear, but the front hangs pretty free, which means there's a lot of movement. So a lot like our other removals, you want to support the transmission with a jack under it, so that it doesn't drop and bind up on anything. It doesn't bind your, say, torque converter on your flex plate. You also want to do that because then you can use that to help separate everything and make sure everything comes apart cleanly. If you don't have a jack on the transmission, you do not have any control of the transmission, and the car is going to be on or close to the ground, so you don't have the ability to get anything else in there to control it to help you get the engine out when you're using the hoist. So that's why we go put the jack under. And then we put a little bit of tension on, pull our last couple bolts, and the engine should hopefully come out. baby. Come on. Alright, what are we doing here? Ta-da! We got her out. That was okay, actually. Compared to pulling like a Renesis Doritos Silicos RX-8 engine, this is pretty much a cake. Random surprises falling out of the back. There was like this shim plate or something between the engine and transmission that I was not expecting to be there. Couple things to note. I did not end up pulling, you can see it here, this oxygen sensor, mostly because my big fat hands couldn't get in there in any way, shape, or form to get it. That ended up not being too big of a problem because I was able to pull the passenger side oxygen sensor and not let me shimmy the engine enough to get this to clear the AC lines. So the AC lines run right over here, and you just have to shimmy the engine up in the right way in order to get it to clear that. Not hard to do, you just need to take it slow. Other things to note on this, the other couple things to consider require us to look at the engine bay, so we're going to go to hand shaky cam here, and we'll show you those. So this is the engine bay. Notice there's no engine here. Means we were successful. There's a couple things that I was getting hung up on that you want to pay attention to if you're trying to keep everything in your engine bay intact. First thing, you see that wiring loom here? I was really rubbing my engine mount and my headers on that. And you can see I started tearing some wires out here. I'm not sure if those wires are broken or not, and if they would mess up the loom. I'm not too worried about any sort of wiring harness, keeping any wiring harness here, because any new project with that engine will pretty much have a custom wiring harness anyway. But if you're going to pull this engine for yourself, watch out for that. Maybe do your best to relocate it or give it a little bit more slack so it can come up and out of the way of the engine. I was also running up on this front here. So this wiring harness, you can see where I ran up on that with the accessory pulley there. Maybe you could pull this and relocate it just enough to get it out of the way. These are those AC lines over here that the oxygen sensor was running into. So watch out for those on your way up. Finally, I've taken the jack off from underneath the transmission. And you notice how low that sits. So that's definitely not going to mate up. That's why you need a jack under your transmission. So you actually do need to lift up the transmission a little bit to get the engine to slide off of it properly. Otherwise, the flex plate or your flywheel will hit the inside of the bell housing, and you'll just end up scraping all the way off and damaging something or another. So that's why we put a jack under it. Things to note, that if you do not have my specific sealing limitations, you probably want to do the engine removal with some amount of support under the car that'll lift the front engine up a little bit, because that'll give you better access to the transmission from the side. I ended up having to access up here, despite what the video I think shows. I ended up having to move the jack here to get good access to the bottom of the transmission. The other thing that happened is the feet on my engine stand, which is not particularly tall feet-wise, actually ended up impacting on these front subframe sections here and here, such that I couldn't push the engine stand far enough forward to where I'd want it to be when lifting this thing. So it ended up making it a little bit hard and probably caused some of the rubbing we were seeing around here. So if you do not have my height limitations, definitely do this with the front up on like small jack stands, or put some wood, just some like 2x4s, couple 2x4s, or underneath the front wheels, so that you have better clearance underneath for getting your jacks and your engine stand under there. So I think that's it for us today. Next episode on this engine will probably be after the car is gone and out of here, so I have more space to actually sit down and fab some pieces and get some stuff built and that sort of thing. But thanks for watching, everyone. My name's Andrew. This has been another Make It Break It YouTube channel video on our formerly Project Ute Chrysler 300C. If you like this video, definitely hit like. If you found it helpful, have questions, comments, concerns, hit me in the comment section down below, or hit me up on Facebook. I respond to either as quick as I can. And if you like what we're doing in this channel, do a lot of stuff like engine removal, show you some handy mechanic works, as well as we have race car and motorcycle builds coming up here, where we're gonna get real buildy with them. I think that's a word. And so if you like any of that sort of stuff, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. So anyway, thanks again, guys. Catch you later.